How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just wanted to come on here for a while and give him a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from 3 nights ago, which was December 7th, 2022. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was a Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. That was a great match, but the contestants in the match were Ricky Starks, Jungle Boy, Dustin Rhodes, Matt Hardy, Brian Cage, Ethan Page, Lee Moriarty, Orange Cassidy, Sean Dean, Dalton Castle, The Butcher, and Kip Sabian. As I said, that was a great match, but the ending to it, Ricky Starks went over and won the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal by lastly eliminating Ethan Page. Now, after the match, as Ricky Starks was getting ready to celebrate his victory, MJF came out to the ring and got on the microphone and cut a promo talking about how Bryan Danielson is scared of MJF himself because of after what he done to William Regal last week on AEW Dynamite and everything, and then MJF turned his attention to Ricky Starks. And MJF was talking about how Ricky Starks was a dollar store Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and talked about how he was going to destroy Ricky Starks and be the Dynamite Diamond Ring winner for the 4th time, and talked about how he was going to retain the AEW title and everything, and talked about how his reign of terror has just begun, and talked about how he was going to send Ricky Starks back to YouTube on Billy Corgan's NWA and everything, and MJF kept talking more shit to Ricky Starks, and then Ricky Starks got on the microphone and was talking shit towards MJF, talking about how MJF has had everything handed to him and how he's never had responsibility, and talked about how MJF thinks he's better than everybody because he's rich, and talked about how MJF has a cheap suit on, and talked about how ugly he is with his haircut and everything. And Ricky Starks talked about how at one point he was living in his car and had to scratch and claw to get where he's at and everything, and talked about how he was on YouTube, but he was working his ass off, and talked about how he was going to destroy MJF and win the Dynamite Diamond Ring and win the AEW title from MJF and everything. And after Ricky Starks got done talking shit to MJF executed a low blow to Ricky Starks, and then MJF was getting ready to strike Ricky Starks with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, but Ricky Starks countered it, and Ricky Starks executed the spear to MJF and laid MJF out, and Ricky Starks stood tall while MJF retreated and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 2, it was Samoa Joe versus Darby Allin for the AEW TNT title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Samoa Joe went over and retained the AEW TNT title with the Coquina Clutch. Now after the match, as Samoa Joe was celebrating his victory, Darby Allin got up and got all pissed off and shoved Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe retaliated with a headbutt, Then Samoa Joe executed the Muscle Buster to Darby Allin on Darby Allin's skateboard, and then Samoa Joe executed the Coquina Clutch on Darby Allin again, but all the referees tried to come out and break it up, but Samoa Joe wouldn't let go, and as Samoa Joe had the Coquina Clutch locked in on Darby Allin, Wardlow came out for the save, but as Wardlow came running down to the ring, Samoa Joe retreated. And a stare down between Wardlow and a stare down between Samoa Joe and Wardlow ensued while Darby Allin was laid out and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 3, it was the Blackpool Combat Club, which are Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, versus the Jericho Appreciation Society, which are Jake Hager and Daniel Garcia. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Blackpool Combat Club went over because Claudio Castagnoli pinned Jake Hager with the European uppercut. Now, after the match, Tony Schiavone interviewed the Blackpool Combat Club, which are Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta. Well, Tony Schiavone was talking about how he had footage of interviewing William Regal a few weeks back and everything, and Tony Schiavone had the production team of AEW show the footage of the interview between him and William Regal. Well, footage of Tony Schiavone interviewing William Regal appeared, and Tony Schiavone was asking William Regal where he stands with the Blackpool Combat Club and why he helped MJF beat Jon Moxley for the AEW title and everything. Well, William Regal was talking about how MJF was complaining about emails and everything, and William Regal gave MJF what he wanted, and thought, well, now MJF has a target on his back and everything, and William Regal was talking about how his time in AEW is over, and how Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli can help Wheeler Yuta succeed in AEW because the Blackpool Combat Club don't need him anymore. And William Regal talked about how it's been an emotional ride, but his time with AEW is over and everything. And then after that footage showed, Tony Schiavone asked the Blackpool Combat Club what their thoughts were, and Jon Moxley took the microphone and talked about how the Blackpool Combat Saturday on Ring of Honor's pay-per-view event Final Battle, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta have their business to handle, while Jon Moxley himself has business to handle on Rampage because Jon Moxley issued an open challenge to anyone on the AEW roster Friday night on AEW Rampage. And then Jon Moxley talked about how after Ring of Honor's pay-per-view event Final Battle, that the war between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Jericho Appreciation Society is over and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 4, it was Jade Cargill and the Baddies, which are Red Velvet and Layla Gray, versus Madison Rayne, Kiera Hogan, and Sky Blue. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Jade Cargill and the Baddies went over because Jade Cargill pinned Madison Rayne with the Jaded. And match 5, which was the main event, it was the Acclaimed which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, versus FTR, which are Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, for the AEW Tag Team titles. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Acclaimed went over and retained the AEW Tag Team titles because Max Caster pinned Cash Wheeler with a roll-up. Now, after the match, Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens... Now, before the match, as FTR came down to the ring, Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed came down to the ring. Max Caster done a rap on FTR, and Anthony Bowens said his signature line, "Austin, Texas, the Acclaimed have arrived," and everything. And then Anthony Bowens signaled Billy Gunn for the scissor me gesture and said, "Scissor me, daddy ass." So all that was cool. That was before the match, by the way. And after the match, Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed helped FTR up, and Billy Gunn, the Acclaimed, and FTR done the scissor me gesture. And as that was going on, well, Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed left and went backstage after the celebration. Well, FTR were still out in the ring, and the Guns, which are Colton and Austin Gunn, were backstage and appeared on the Titantron and everything, and the Guns were talking about how everybody thought they were going to get involved and everything, but they didn't and everything, and the Guns talked about how they had gifts for how they had Christmas gifts for FTR and everything, and so Colton and Austin Gunn got the stockings with Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler's names on it. Austin Gunn opened up a card and it said, "Saturday, Final Battle." And then Austin and Colton Gunn were talking about the stipulation to the match. They were saying, and we also got something else. And they pulled out two dog collars and talked about how it was going to be a double, how it was going to be a double dog collar match between FTR, which are Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, versus the Briscoes, which are Jay and Mark Briscoe, in a double dog collar match for the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles at Ring of Honor's pay-per-view event Final Battle. And after that announcement, FTR, which are Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, celebrated with a hug and everything. Embraced with a hug and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way, and that was match 5 and the main event, by the way. Now, besides the matches, AEW aired a vignette of the build-up of the match between Samoa Joe versus Darby Allin for the AEW TNT title. That was cool. Jon Moxley cut a promo talking about how a bunch of people on the AEW roster, all they do is talk, and this is not all talk wrestling. This is not all elite talking. This is all elite wrestling. And Jon Moxley talked about how Hangman Page stepped up, and instead of talk shit, he used his hands to fight and everything. And Jon Moxley talked about how he was going to accompany Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta in their match against Jake Hager and Daniel Garcia to make sure no sports entertainment shenanigans happened and everything, and talked about how at Final Battle, Ring of Honor's Final Battle, the sports entertainment bullshit wasn't going to happen either and everything, and Jon Moxley kept talking shit about how professional wrestling over sports entertainers and everything. That was cool. Um, Tony Schiavone interviewed Orange Cassidy and Kip Sabian. Well, Tony Schiavone was talking about how Orange Cassidy requested to talk to Kip Sabian. Well, Orange Cassidy was saying, yeah, Kip, I did request to talk to you. And if you want a shot at the AEW All-Atlantic title, all you have to do is ask. Kip Sabian said, not Orange. I'm not going to fight you for that AEW All-Atlantic title. Orange Cassidy said, well, how about you bring somebody to fight for you then? What do you say? Kip Sabian ended up walking off, and Orange Cassidy asked Tony Schiavone if that was a yes. Tony Schiavone said, yes, that's what that means. The challenge has been accepted, and on Friday night on AEW Rampage, you, Orange Cassidy, are going to defend your AEW All-Atlantic title against an opponent of Kip Sabian's choosing. And Orange Cassidy wasn't fazed by it and everything. That was cool. AEW aired a vignette of the build-up of the match between Chris Jericho versus Claudio Castagnoli for the Ring of Honor World title at Ring of Honor's pay-per-view event Final Battle. That was cool. The House of Black, which are Malachi Black, Brody King, Buddy Matthews, and Julia Hart, cut a promo. Well, Malachi Black was talking about how since the House of Black have returned to AEW, that AEW has gone soft and everything. And Malachi Black talked about how Wednesday at AEW Dynamite special event Winter is Coming, the House of Black were issuing a challenge to anyone on the AEW roster and everything. And Malachi Black was asking Julia Hart a question, and Julia Hart answered it with misery. Then Malachi Black asked Buddy Matthews a question. Buddy Matthews said war. Then Malachi Black asked Brody King a question, and Brody King said destruction and everything. That was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Jamie Hayter. Well, Tony Schiavone talked about how Jamie Hayter requested a sit-down interview and everything, and Tony Schiavone said, champ, the floor is yours. Jamie Hayter said, yeah, Tony, I asked you for a sit-down interview, because, let's face it, Saraya gets a sit-down interview, okay. Tony Storm gets a sit-down interview, okay. Before this sit-down interview, I always said, I would say, where's my sit-down interview? And Jamie Hayter talked about how the women's division has improved, and well, Tony Schiavone talked about how the women's division has improved and everything, and Jamie Hayter agreed and everything, and Tony Schiavone brought up about Hikaru Shida defending the Regina DeWave title against the Bunny on AEW Rampage and everything, and Jamie Hayter talked about how about whoever wins the match between Hikaru Shida versus the Bunny for the Regina DeWave title on AEW Rampage would get a shot at the AEW Women's title and everything. And Tony Schiavone asked Jamie Hayter if she was a fighting champion and everything, and Jamie Hayter said, yes, I am, Tony. I am a fighting champion and everything. That was cool. And Tony Schiavone interviewed Saraya. Well, Tony Schiavone asked Saraya after her victory against Britt Baker at Full Gear what was next for her. Well, before Saraya got to talk, Britt Baker appeared, and Britt Baker was talking about how was sarcastically congratulating Saraya on her win and everything, and Britt Baker was talking about how Saraya said that Britt Baker herself gets everything handed to her and everything, and Britt Baker talked about how that was the other way around because Saraya only had her match because it was against her and everything, and Britt Baker issued tickets to Saraya for the January 11th edition of AEW Dynamite in Los Angeles, California and everything, and Britt Baker was saying about how Saraya can either sit in the crowd and shut up, or she can come in and fight. And Saraya wanted to fight Britt Baker on the January 11th edition of Dynamite, and Britt Baker talked about how Jamie Hayter was going to be there and how they were going to have a tag team match and everything, and told Saraya that she wanted to face her and a partner of her choosing, and Britt Baker sarcastically wished Saraya good luck in finding a tag team partner because herself and Jamie Hayter are unstoppable and everything, and Britt Baker ended up leaving, and Saraya asked Tony Schiavone if they wanted to do the DMD gesture, and Britt Baker grabbed Tony Schiavone and took her with him, and Saraya just looked on and everything. That was cool. Now, besides all that, Tony Schiavone, Taz, and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. The referees for the event were Mike Posey, Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Mike Posey, Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards refereed the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Samoa Joe versus Darby Allin for the AEW TNT title. Rick Knox refereed the match between the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Jericho Appreciation Society. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Jade Cargill and the Baddies versus Madison Rayne, Kiera Hogan, and Sky Blue. And Paul Turner refereed the match between The Acclaimed versus FTR for the AEW Tag Team titles. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now, the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite special event Winter is Coming that's been announced so far. It's going to be MJF versus Ricky Starks for the AEW title and the Dynamite Diamond Ring. The Elite, which are Kenny Omega, the Death Triangle, the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite's special event Winter is Coming Wednesday night that's been announced so far. It's going to be MJF versus Ricky Starks for the AEW title and the Dynamite Diamond Ring. The Death Triangle, which are Pac, Rey Fenix, and Penta El Cerro Miedo versus The Elite, which are Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson in match 4 of the Best of 7 series for the AEW Trios titles. And the House of Black, which are Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews versus 3 local competitors. So the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite's special event Winter is Coming that's been announced so far looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. And the match card that's been announced so far for Ring of Honor's pay-per-view event Final Battle, it's going to be, for tonight, it's going to be Chris Jericho versus Claudio Castagnoli for the Ring of Honor World title. Samoa Joe versus Juice Robinson for the Ring of Honor. Wait a minute. Excuse me. And the match card for Ring of Honor's pay-per-view event Final Battle today that's been announced so far, it's going to be Chris Jericho versus Claudio Castagnoli for the Ring of Honor World title. Samoa Joe versus Juice Robinson for the Ring of Honor television title. Dalton Castle and the Boys, which are Brandon and Brent Tate, versus the Embassy, which are Brian Cage, Toa Leona, and Bishop Khan for the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles. FTR, which are Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, versus the Briscoes, which are Jay and Mark Briscoe, in a double dog collar match for the Ring of Honor tag team titles. Daniel Garcia versus Wheeler Yuta for the Ring of Honor Pure title. Mercedes Martinez versus Athena for the Ring of Honor Women's title. And Swerve and Our Glory, which are Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, versus the Shane Taylor Promotions, which are Shane Taylor and J.D. Griffey. So the match card for Ring of Honor's pay-per-view event Final Battle for today looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from 3 nights ago, which was December 7th, 2022. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your fucking ass down the goddamn road. Peace. Out.